So, this week's Torah portion, Parashat HaShavua, it's a double parsha, which will be Tazria Metzorah. Towards the end of this week's towards the end of the first parsha, well, the first parsha starts speaking already about the different kinds of impurities that a person can have. And from there on, it goes into Parashat Metzorah, and it's a unique kind of impurity that the Torah starts talking about. And that unique type of impurity is the impurity that a person receives as a punishment. Believe it or not, in the time of the temple, in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, even before the temple, there was such a thing as divine punishment, like literally within seconds, within minutes. But there was only one particular sin that we know of, at least, in the Torah, that had such a direct punishment and such quick divine punishment. No other sin in the Torah that we know of has that kind of quick punishment from heaven. And that is Lashon Hara. It's negative speech. And we see it directly in the Torah. A lot of times what happens, people ask questions like, well, the punishment for, let's say, the punishment for murder is this, or punishment for desecrating Shabbat is this. And a lot of times people ask, like, we don't really see that in the Torah itself. Well, this time, when it comes to Lashon Hara, you see it in the Torah, for sure. There's no way for you to ignore it. What happened? The story of the Torah, the story is between Moshe Rabbeinu, between God, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and Miriam, Hanaviyah, the prophetess Miriam, his sister, and Aaron, his brother Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu had separated from his wife for a while because he had been asked by God to do so, because he had to be in constant alert to be speaking to God. Miriam, not doing it in any way to be negative, to be speaking negative, chas v'shalom, about his brother Moshe Rabbeinu, at all. There's so many commentaries that talk about what Miriam was really trying to do, and it wasn't negative. Even so, she says to Aaron, her older brother, says, you know, it's interesting. God speaks to us also, right? Because she was a prophetess. She had prophecy from God as well, and so did Aaron. She says, God speaks to us as well. We didn't separate from our wives or husbands, from our spouses. So, meaning to say, I don't understand why Moshe felt he had to do that. Instantly, what happens? Within minutes, she has tzarat. She has what we call today, at least what we call today, modern age, what? Leprosy. But we know that the Chachamim have said many, many times that tzarat, the Metzorah, the person that would get tzarat, it was nothing like leprosy whatsoever. Leprosy is a very physical disease that at one point you couldn't cure it. Thank God today there's, obviously there is, but maybe that's why they called it tzarat. But tzarat had nothing to do with leprosy. Tzarat was a very spiritual kind of a disease. The person that would get it, no kind of medication would help you. Nothing. You could go to the professors all over the world. I mean, in modern age, no one gets it anymore because you only had it during the time of the temple. After the destruction of the temple, there was no such thing as tzarat. People would get leprosy, and because they didn't know the cure for it, it's the same thing. But it's not. The only way to get rid of tzarat was for the person to recognize they've done a mistake of doing Lashon Hara. There were other things also that person got tzarat, but most of the time it was because of Lashon Hara. He had to repent. He had to agree that he has done it, and then there would the purity days would start. The person would go to mikveh and repent, and then bring a korban, a sacrifice, and then they were cleansed. And how? You would see the spiritual disease would go away by itself. If you don't, you could carry it on for life. It just would get worse and worse. And the only way it would get cured was by the Kohen. And we'll discuss that maybe a little bit. What I want to get into more, really, is imagine. Here we have a disease that comes from heaven instantly for a sin that we call Lashon Hara, or negative speech about others. Yet, as crazy as it sounds, no one feels that Lashon Hara is really a big deal. But when you look at the Torah, it makes it a huge deal, a great deal. It's one of the worst. For example, I'm sure a lot of people know this. Prime example is the Gemara gives a few reasons for the destruction of the first and the second temple. Everybody know this Gemara? Right, I don't know. I switch into accents. Don't mind me. I just So the Gemara discusses different reasons, like why were the Batei Mikdash, why were the temples destroyed? How many temples did we have? Two. It's the same thing. Dota. We had 2 temples. Both were destroyed. What was the reason for it? So the Gemara says the first temple, Chachamim tell us, first temple had the big 3. I like the way you named it. Thank you. Yeah, okay. But let me do it, okay? If you want to speak, just say things, but like, don't take the quotes and stuff. I want to do those. I'll get you outside. Anyway, the big 3, as he said. The big 3 were what? You could say these, don't worry. What? Adultery, murder, idol worship, or idolatry. I always get them like idolatry, adultery. Worshipping idols, worshipping other gods, adultery, and murder. That's a big deal. I mean, these are things that, we say there's a few things that a person, if they're forced to, and they say, listen, they come to, a guy comes and points a gun at someone's head and says, hey, here's how it's going to go down, okay? If you want to live, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to Yankee's house, put a gun to his head, and pull the trigger. You live. The Torah says, what do? You can't kill someone. You have to get killed, but you cannot kill. Same thing, worshiping idols. If somebody comes to you and says, thou shalt worship at the table, you may not do that. You have to get killed and not worship other idols. And same too with adultery. If someone comes, puts a gun to your head, hey, you have to commit adultery with so-and-so person, you have to get killed. Cannot do it. Big deal sins? Would you say these are the big deals? These are the only 3. There's nothing, everything else. If someone points a gun at your head, do or I will kill you, you're allowed to do them. You're allowed to sin to save your life. But these 3, they're nay-nays. You can't. You can't kill, you can't commit adultery, and you can't worship other idols, other gods. Big sins. So the Chachamim tell us, the first temple was destroyed for these 3 reasons. People were committing adultery, worshiping other idols, and murder, killing people. Now we'll go to the second temple. Why was the second temple destroyed? Now you have to understand, first temple was destroyed. How long did it take for the second temple to be rebuilt? 70 years. It took 70 years for the second temple to be rebuilt. Not too long, you know. I think it worked faster because a lot Persians were involved. You know, because that time the Galut, the exile, took us from Babylonia to Persia. And you know, the Persians probably fed the king some gorma sabzi, and they're like, listen, please, build it for us. So he's like, okay, I'll do it. But then the second temple, what reason do the Chachamim give for the second temple to be destroyed? And notice, by the way, it's still not rebuilt. It's Sinat Chinam, or baseless hatred, which stems from what the Chachamim say? Lashon Hara. Speaking negatively about each other. We are now in exile since the second temple's destruction for over 1,900 years. The temple has not been rebuilt. Not only that, the Chachamim say, Lashon Hara is only one sin, and it's compared to the 3 biggies, the grave sins. There you had 3 of the greatest sins that you have to die and not do. Here, Lashon Hara, it's like, it's an everyday thing, every second thing, yet the Beit HaMikdash, the Chachamim say, the reason it's not being rebuilt is because it's still going on. Isn't that, it should drive you crazy. You have to think to yourself, I mean, it's such a common thing. Speaking is a very common thing. Lashon Hara, and believe me, when you read the Sifrei, let's say, the Sefer of the Chavetz Chaim, about the laws of Lashon Hara, not that it's actually like this, but you will, in the beginning at least, you'll feel like, oh my gosh, I just have to close my mouth all day long, not say a word and walk around. That's it. Because there's a lot of ways that you could fall into the pit of saying Lashon Hara. So you think to yourself, I don't understand, why would God do this? This is terrible. There's no way we can stop. Why is it so bad? What makes it so horrible? What makes Lashon Hara so, have you ever even thought about it? There's talks about it all the time. You know, in Judaism, this is a subject that is spoken about a lot. And one thing that I always tell my students is, or anybody, you have to ask questions. You really have to ask. You know, okay, I get it. Lashon Hara is bad. The Chachamim tell us that Lashon Hara is the gravest sin, and the destruction of the temple was because, okay, but I want to know why. What makes it so wrong? What makes it so bad? Why is the tongue so powerful? What gives it its power? Incidentally, there's a I mean, this story is told by, there's different versions, different places. I've even found it by Shlomo Melech, by King Solomon. So I'll use that one, by King Solomon. They say that there was a king, and he was very ill. Different doctors and professors and different therapists had tried every kind of medication possible, every kind of meditation possible, every kind of, you got to go to Mount Everest and meditate for 3 days and you'll be healed. Didn't work. They had tried everything. Nothing worked. Finally, a big chacham, they find a very famous physician that comes up to the king and, does this thing and researches and finally comes and says, I found a cure. This will save your life. You have a few months left, but if you do what I'm telling you to do, you'll be a new man. So he says, okay, I will give you whatever you want. So he says, it's difficult, but it's doable. You need lion's milk 3 times a day for a week. He says, lion's milk? He says, yeah. He says, how do you milk a lion? It's not easy. I guess those days they didn't have like as many tamed lions as we do today, or I don't know. They didn't have machineries to put lion out. So he says, okay, so he sends out letters to his people, and he says, whoever's willing to go through the dangers and the possibility of death to save the king's life will be rewarded beyond belief. So people come to ask, they register, they put their names down, and then they find out, okay, so king, I will go to war for you when these lion's milk. Peace out, I do dogs, I don't do lions, but call me if you need dogs. So people kept coming to the palace, no win situation. Finally, a simple Jew comes and says, my dear king, I will do it. Says, well, what do you need? He says, well, I'll tell you what I need. I don't need much, but for now, here's what I need. I need this much fresh meat. I need this much water, and for myself, and I need food because I'm going to be out for a while. He says, okay. Give him whatever he wants. They load camels and donkeys filled with food for him and fresh meat, as much as you can possibly have. And he goes on his travels. Finally, comes to the jungle, and he starts to search for the lion's den, literally. And he finally finds a cave where he sees these lions are, and there's a lioness in there, and she has babies. And she, periodically the babies come and they feed off of the mother, and she's a milking mom. So he starts. What does he do? He doesn't get too close to the cave. He takes one big chunk of meat and he throws it in front of the cave. The mama lion comes out, grabs the meat, sees the guy, is a little angry and goes inside and she munches on it. Right? He's, the lion's satiated for the day. Next day comes, he comes a little closer to the opening of the cave, throws a little, a bigger piece of meat in front of it, and the lion comes, looks at the guy, he gets freaked out, takes the meat, goes back in. And so on and so forth. He starts doing this every day, but each day he would come closer to the opening of the den, and his lion starts getting used to this guy, the guy that feeds me. Finally comes to the day. He's got to get ready. He's running out of food for the lion, and he throws the most luscious, biggest piece of meat he had brought with him in front of the lion, and he's literally right here. Puts it down, the lion comes, he even touches the lion, pets it a little bit. Lion takes the food, goes back inside, eats it, and gets so heavy. Like you have gondi on Friday nights. Gets so heavy and falls asleep right inside the cave. This is his opportunity. He's sitting in the cave, and the babies are there and stuff, and he takes out his bottles and begins to milk the lion. Finally, he comes out with a few bottles of lion milk, and he's so happy. It's like, I'm a genius. I did it. Yes. I'm gonna be rich. Right? He walks out. On his way back to the palace, he's got to make it fast because, the king counting on him. On his way back, he gets a little tired. He needs to rest. Those days didn't have aeroplanes. They didn't have trains. They didn't have these kind of, cool type of transportation. So he needed to walk. He was tired. He had camels. You can't sit on camels. You've gone on Israel trips. I don't know how people did it. But so he's tired. He decides he's going to rest. He falls asleep. He falls asleep and he has a dream. In this dream, imagine to yourselves, he sees all of his body parts talking to each other. Just chilling and talking. He hears his legs. The legs go, hey, peoples, you couldn't do it without us. Look at what we did. We came all the way into the jungle and we walked you all the way over. Without us, you couldn't even gotten to the palace to tell the king. He would have even laughed at you if you didn't have legs. Like, what are you going to do? You don't even have legs. You're gonna go get me milk from a lion? Get out of here. He finishes up and the arms go like, what are you kidding me? Yeah, if you had legs, you could have walked here. How would you have milked the lion? How would you have done it? You couldn't have done it. You need arms, right? To carry stuff, to feed the lion. If you didn't have arms, we're the most important part of the body, right? The eyes go like, you guys kidding me? Oh, you guys kidding us? 2 eyes. Seriously? Y'all kidding us? You couldn't have done anything without eyes. You couldn't find your way. You wouldn't even have found lions. What would you do? Search? Would you pat your way to find a lion? And it goes on, and the brain says, you guys are so dumb. Without me, you wouldn't even have thought of the idea to even come here and bring the meat. It's all me. It's all in the brain. What did Einstein say? I think. Therefore, I'm Persian. Sorry, I don't know why I'm bagging on the Persians. I'm Persian myself. Anyway, so on and so forth. All different kinds of body parts say this. And finally, the tongue comes out and goes, yeah, just seriously. Put it to rest. Seriously, come on. Without me, you guys have nothing. How would you have even communicated? How would you? It's all me. To this, all the body parts go, oh, go back into your cave. Shut it. What are you talking about? You're a lousy piece of meat. Lifeless piece of meat. You're always sitting in your little chamber. You don't do nothing for nobody. Okay? If anything, at least we're active. The hands work picking things up. The legs are picking the entire body up. The brain is actually thinking. What do? You just blab all day long. Nothing. And he's seeing this in his dream. And the tongue goes, oh yeah? You guys all sure this is how you want it to go down? They go, what are you going to do? And he wakes up. Wakes up and he's freaking out. He's like, wow. Could be from some mushrooms I picked up from behind the tree. That was some crazy dream. And he starts going back to find the mushrooms. No, I'm kidding. So he doesn't think too much about it. He's about to be rich. So he walks on his way. And he gets to the palace. He's all tired. They take him in, and he goes, I'm the guy who's got the milk of the lion for the king. I'm the guy who's going to save his life. And they go, oh, my gosh, it's him. So they bring him. They shower him. They wash him. He smelled like, forest and jungle. So they shower him, and they put perfumes on him, make him look great. And they tell the king, your king, he's here, he's here. Goes, bring him to me as soon as possible. Right? He comes right before the king. And the king says, so new? He wasn't Jewish. So he says, so tell me, you got what you went for? He says, my dear king, I have what you asked for. I brought you donkey milk. And the king says, what? He says, I brought you the donkey milk you asked for. And the king's thinking, like, he says donkey milk. The king gets so upset. He's got a few weeks to live. And this guy's kidding around and goes, are you out of your mind? He tells the guards, throw him into jail. Tomorrow, we're cutting his head off. They come and carry him into the cell. He sits in that cell and he goes, what is wrong with me? What did I just do? It's over. That's it. They're going to kill me. They're never going to give me a chance. And he's so depressed and he's so tired. He falls asleep again. He falls asleep and he has the same exact dream. And the body parts are all like, what just happened? The tongue says, I told y'all, don't mess with me. You know? I said, I'm the most powerful. Y'all like, no, I'm the legs. I carry you. And you're like, oh, I'm the brain. What are you going to do now, brain? Y'all be about to be dead. So they go, are you crazy? You're going to get us all killed. He goes, I don't care. I'm crazy. You know, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. So they go, are you out of here? Okay, we believe you. You're the most powerful. He goes, everyone bow down to me. Tell me I'm the most powerful. Because you're the most powerful. You're the greatest. We'll never, ever, ever argue about this with you again. He says, okay, I got you all into this. Watch the master work. And the guy wakes up. He wakes up and he starts shouting for the guards. Guards, come here. And Osman goes, there's been a terrible mistake. It's a terrible mistake. You have to tell the king. I have to talk to him. They go, get out of here. You're crazy, you lunatic. He goes, no, this is the king's life. Are you going to be the one responsible for his death? With an F? So they're freaking out. So they go tell the king, listen, this guy's really out of his mind. He wants to talk to you. So he comes in front of the king and goes, listen, sir, I brought you lion's milk. It's not donkey milk. I was so tired. I was so exhausted in my mother language that I learned from my parents a long time ago. Donkey and lion are the same. So I made a mistake. I was so tired. Trust me. He goes, what are you, crazy? What are you making? He says, listen, I'll make a deal. I'll be in the cell, but drink the milk. If you're healed, then I'm fine. If not, he says, deal. And he starts drinking the milk, and he's all healed, and the guy is safe. And this is brought down a lot of places. So I found it about Shlomo HaMelech that he brings it down as a parable just to teach the power of a person's speech. That's why Chachamim tell us. Chachamim tell us, life and death hangs by the tongue. And it is so true. I have seen it with my own eyes. Life and death, truly, and I'm telling you, death is not only 6 feet under. There are people in the world that have lost everything in life because of Lashon Hara. And sometimes they'd rather be dead because of the horrible things they've gone through. Because of what? Because some guy felt it was funny to say this, and then the next guy took it in the wrong way, and the next guy, before you know it, the guy's a murderer and he doesn't even know about it. All because of a dumb joke. All because of a big mouth. So going back, why does the Torah implement such severe punishment on Lashon Hara? In Bereshit, when God created the world in 7 days. 6 days, 7th day, he rested. And when God created Adam HaRishon, the first man, Adam, on the 6th day, there was something different about Adam. It said that God created man from the earth of the ground, and he became into a body. And then it says, and these are the words of the Torah in Bereshit, Vaypach be'apav nishmat chayim. And God blew into his nostrils nishmat chayim, a living soul. Simple enough? God blew into Adam's nostrils a living soul. That's how Adam came to life. Simple enough, right? That's how you would interpret it. God blew into his nostrils a living soul, and that's how he came to life. Onkelos, which is one of the first commentators and definers of the Torah, he defines this line very differently. Instead of saying God, in whatever language, in the Aramaic language that he uses, the Onkelos uses, instead of just saying, and God created man and gave him a neshama through his nose, through his nostrils, for him to be a living person. If you want to define it in a big way, he says, and God gave life to man, and he gave him ruach memalela, and he gave him the power of speech. That's how Onkelos translates the line, God blew into man's nostrils a living soul. How does Onkelos translate it? You know what that living soul was? You know what differed between this creation and all the other creations? God created the animals, the ants, the birds, the insects. They all have a nefesh. They all have a part of a soul within them. So God gave the Adam a neshama, which is the soul that we know a human being has. But Onkelos says, but that's not all. The main part of the soul, you know what it was? You know what makes a person different from all the other animals? Ruach memalela. He gave him the power of speech. You know how we say a person is B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God? Have you ever thought, what is the image of God? You think God has a nose and two eyes and lips? And that's not what the Torah means, image of God. The attributes. But the main attribute that it's talking about, how is the person compared to God? There's one thing that God gave us from himself. What do you do when you blow? When it says, the Torah says, God blew into Adam's nostrils, nishmat chaim, a living soul. What do you do when you're blowing into something? When you blow into a balloon, what are you doing? You're giving from your insides. Where does this air come from? It's from within you, right? It's like, it's from literally from within you, from inside you. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, that's what the Torah says. He blew into his nostrils. He literally kissed us with his living soul. And Onkelos says, you know what that living soul is? The power to talk, the power to speak, the power to communicate like no one else can. Now we could answer why it's deemed so negative to say Lashon Hara. To use those words negatively, you know why it's so bad? And the punishment from the Torah is so intense and so quick. Because it's like God saying, there is one thing I gave you. One thing that's a part of me, literally. It's from me to you that I gave no other creature in creation. That one thing is me. And you're using me for negativity that can't possibly go on. It needs to stop now. Do you understand how severe that is? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying you could do so many different things. They all could be sins, but I can have patience, I could wait. But using me, literally, physically using HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to think of it that way. We are physically using Hashem to bring damage. And Hashem says, that's not going to happen. You cannot use me to bring damage to other people. That's the one positive thing that I've given you, that I've given nobody else, no other creature in the world. But we tend to think that this gift that we have is like, sticking stones might break my bones, but, words will never hurt me. And then you go home and you cry yourself to sleep. That's the end of that sentence, by the way. Because in America, when I came here, when I was a kid, I heard that. Because, obviously, being a redhead. Yeah, laugh. Being a redhead is like, it's literally like a red light. You get it? Like a red light saying, bully me. And I remember my teachers telling me, would tell me, listen, Yitzchak, as they say, sticking stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Just keep repeating that to yourself, and then someday maybe you'll go to a supermarket and just kill. I'm kidding. But because that just puts the anger inside you. Because it's a lie. It's such a big lie. Because sticking stones could break your bones. Bones heal. They've always healed. Thousands of years ago, there was no need for any complicated casts. They just had 2 pieces of wood and they wrapped it and the bone would heal. That's what bones do, they heal. You know what doesn't heal? A hurt soul. That hurt is always with you. I'm sure if I look around this room, you remember instances in your lives where you could remember exact words that people told you that hurt you. It stays with you, even if you've forgiven them. And I'm sure everyone forgives. You know, you grow up, like, well, who cares? Whatever. You know, we were kids, we were idiots. But it's still, there's something there. It lingers. It still hurts. There's a very fascinating parable about a guy that was very abusive to his wife, verbally. He would come home and just lash out and go crazy every single day. It was his thing. She would never know what to expect from this guy. One time it was angry, one time it was drunk. It was just abuse would not stop. One day as this guy was lawning his, mowing his lawn. He was lawning his mow. As this guy was mowing his lawn, he comes to the fence of this. I'm sure a lot of people have probably read this or heard this. He's passing by his wooden fence, and he sees that one side of the fence is filled with nails, huge nails. He's like, what's going on? Who put nails on my fence? She goes to his wife and he says, Sarah. His wife's name was Sarah. Anyway, she goes, Sarah, who put these nails in this fence? And she gets a little scared. She says, don't worry about it. If you want to, she goes, no, I really want to know who put the nails in the fence. What's the nails for? There's nothing hanging there. She says, you want the honest truth? He says, yes. You promise you won't get angry? Promise. He says, well, it's a way of me to get my hurt out. Every time you abuse me verbally and I get really hurt, instead of lashing out at other people or my kids, I come outside to this yard and I take one nail for each time that you've hurt me and I put a nail in the fence. And the husband hears this and he's in shock. Really hurts him. For the first time, he thinks to himself, like, I'm really hurting her. You know, maybe it's just me not doing my business, not doing well enough, but honestly, she hasn't done anything wrong to me. I have to stop. So he feels horrible. He goes up to her and says, I'm so sorry for every single time that I've done this to you. I'm really sorry. She says, okay, what can I tell you? I forgive you? He says, no, but I don't want that from you. I don't want just forgiveness. I want to know that I've changed. I want to show you that I've changed, and I want to know that I've changed to myself. So I'll make a deal with you. I've thought about this long and hard. She says, okay. Every time I come home and there's an opportunity for me to get upset, my coffee's not ready, my dinner's not hot enough, it's too salty, it's not salty enough, and those are the opportunities that I used to take to abuse you or get upset or scream, and I don't, you go take one nail out. She says, that's a good deal. I'll take it. Great. So, next day he comes home and, you know, the kids are all over the place. There's mess everywhere. And it's that opportunity. He says, honey, I'm sure you've worked so hard today. Let me help you out a little bit. And she's like, wow. You know, that was a big change. So she goes in the yard and takes out one nail. And this continues. He keeps holding himself. And she keeps taking nails out. Until one Sunday, he's in his yard and he sees the fence empty of nails. No nails. And he starts jumping up and down and goes, honey, come out here. You have to come see this. She runs out, goes, what's wrong? He says, nothing. It's what's right. Look at the fence. You didn't tell me there were no more nails. It's amazing. I did it. We did it. She looks at him with a little smile and says, you're right. But look at all the holes. They're still there. And that's a powerful lesson. And it's so true. You could apologize for Lashon Hara. You could apologize for hurting somebody. Yes. Can they forgive you? Yes. Wholeheartedly? Absolutely. But does it go away? Not really. You know why it is like that with words? Because, once again, words are not just words. You're literally using the hand of God. Is God eternal or not? Is he infinite or finite? Therefore, when you're using an infinite source, you use it even for the negative, that negativity could last forever. But when you use it for the positive, it also lasts forever. That's the beauty of it. Even though there are so many laws when it comes to Lashon Hara, and people think that, the Chavetz Chaim was the expert on Lashon Hara, a negative speech. He was the expert. And if you read his books, like I said, you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't talk anymore. At least in the beginning. But once you get used to it, you'll see it's not that hard. But the Chavetz Chaim, with all the rules and regulations, I'll give you one of them. I'll give you one. For instance, Chavetz Chaim says, if you're in a group of people, or even talking to one person, and you start talking about, what's your name? Yitzchak. You start talking about Yitzchak. And you tell your friend, Yitzchak is such a cool guy. He's awesome. I had this test, and he really helped me out, and I got a better grade. He's just so calm with me. He's so cool. He's so chill. And you go on. What could happen? You're saying anything negative? Not at all. You're saying all positive. What could happen, though? Someone, your friend, could say, well, there was this one time, though. It almost always happens, no? Like, yeah, he's really great, but he's just ugly. Or like, yeah, he's really great, but listen, I shared a hotel room. The guy snores like a cow. Just things like that. The Chavetz Chaim says, you have to be so careful, you don't even say too much positive about somebody, because you'll bring someone else to say Lashon Hara. Do you understand what that means? The Chavetz Chaim says your speech is so powerful, you gotta literally, that's why the Chachamim say, the mouth has two locks. We have the lips and the teeth. To literally keep the tongue in. The Chachamim say, listen to this, the Chachamim say that when you have an opportunity to say Lashon Hara, and you don't, have you done any action right now? It's called, when we call in halachic terms, an asay. A positive action. You haven't done any positive action. You just didn't. You just shaval taseh, which means you just didn't do. And the Chachamim say, just by not doing, even though you have done no action whatsoever, you have done one of the greatest. It's considered more than a positive, because it's so difficult. It's so hard, because Lashon Hara is so juicy. You just want to tell the guy that Yitzchak really snores like a cow. Believe me, I've been there. And one time he actually talked. It freaked me out. He was asleep and he was talking. There's things that come up, but we don't feel. Now, I want to take you to a different level. Just shortly. Today's day and age, there's a different stage of Lashon Hara. I think even sometimes even more destructive than ever before. It's called social media. Today, we have used social media and it's become so easy to destroy lives. Bullying is rampant. When I was a kid, for instance, I was a kid once. When I was a kid, bullying, I don't even remember it ever having a name. I think bullying to me was like a new thing of this era. When I was growing up, which wasn't too long ago, I was just thinking, he's bullying me. It's like, no, I just got beat up. It was really simple. The guy's been beating me up every day after school. Whatever, we didn't see too much into it. We didn't it's life. Today it's become so bad, there are kids in schools committing suicide. Not over being bullied physically, but being bullied by words and on social media. And there's so many psychologists that have pinpointed this issue as to why it's become so bad. And the answers are fascinating. You know why? Because when you text something about somebody, or even share a video about somebody, or you write to somebody negatively to bully them, you don't really feel like you're doing anything wrong because you haven't really spoken anything, right? It's just something that you text and you send it, and most of the time they're not in front of you. And because they're not in front of you, you don't see the emotion change in their face. So you're numb to it completely. You just destroyed somebody's day or possibly someone's future, by not even looking at their face as you destroyed them. And that makes a person numb. And because of it, it's become so rampant. Because it's just so easy. I have this video, my friend. I'm going to throw it onto Snapchat. It's only 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds could ruin somebody's life. By people watching something embarrassing about somebody else. And today, all the chachamim, all the rabbis all over the world have gotten together about this destructive behavior that's going on. Because Lashon Hara today has come to a whole new level. It's not about speech only anymore. It's about using any source possible to destroy lives. I remember when I was in school, I remember like it was yesterday, it was in 7th grade, and a kid asked to go to the bathroom. And I don't remember, I think he was lying. He didn't want to go to the bathroom, he just wanted to hang around in the hallways, right? And he said, could I go to the bathroom? And the rabbi's like, yeah, sure you can. And then there was a kid sitting right next to the door. So as this boy walked out of the classroom and the door shut behind him, this smart kid sitting next to the door, knowing he's not really going to the bathroom, he's just hanging out in the hallways, opened the door to show the rabbi, check it. He's just sitting there. I remember thinking to myself, oh wow, look at that, you got him. You know what the rabbi did? Threw the kid that opened the door out of the class. He said, that's Lashon Hara. Because even though you didn't use your words, you still motioned to me that someone else is doing something negative. I don't need you to do that. And this had such an impact on me. I still remember to today. We have to be very, very careful what we communicate to other people, even if we're not using our words. Words is the worst, let's say. But you could destroy lives without words also. It's just a mere gesture. Could ruin someone's life. And that's why it's so powerful. Never forget. When we use our speech, we literally have a power that only we have, and who else? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God is the only one that has that communicative skill. Speech. That's why we have to be so careful how we use it, because it's not our own, we share it with the Creator. And it's very powerful. And I want to just, before we finish, this group, I want to make you guys agents. To help others, to take it upon yourselves. It's hard. In the beginning, it's hard. But you know how you start? With an hour a day. And you need to set that time. I remember at once I did this. I put it in my calendar. Every day, there was an hour in my calendar, let's say, from 3 to 4 p.m., the calendar would say, no Lashon Hara zone. In that hour. And believe me, no matter what hour I chose, that was the hour that all the juicy stuff would start hitting me. Like people would call me, have you heard? I was like, no, call me in an hour. Call me la. Because the Satan knows when you choose to be great, that's when he really attacks you. And it happens to everybody. But you know how powerful it is? Just 1 hour a day. You could save, imagine each time you don't speak Lashon Hara, you're saving a life. Each time you don't speak Lashon Hara, you're saving an Israeli soldier. You're saving a child that needs a refuah shalema. Think of it, that's the zuchut that it has. You're using the godliness power that you have for the good. So I beg you, we need redemption. We need our third temple. And it's only hanging on this. Ahavat chinam. Only speaking positive about others. Or don't say anything at all. So, I want you to come to me after this, and literally, I'll help you. Put it in your calendar. Choose half an hour. If an hour is too long, choose half an hour a day. And go, this is my half an hour. It's too much for you? 3 times a week. That half hour, I don't speak Lashon Hara. I guarantee you. This is not my guarantee. It's the Torah's guarantee. It's the Chachamim's guarantee. It will change your lives. It's a guarantee. It will change your lives. So many new opportunities will open up with you because it's a zechut. It's a merit. Every time you turn away from negativity, a door of positivity opens up for you. So I welcome you. Come to me. Let's do this together. And don't just keep it in this room. Share it with others. And tell them. Chachamim say you have to tell the other person, I'm sorry, in a nice way. Not like, stop it. I'm not listening to your blasphemy. No. Be gone. None of that. Just say, listen, I'd rather not listen to that. I'm sorry. Let's talk about something else. And with that zechut, Bezrat Hashem, we'll merit the coming of Mashiach. We'll see him together, and we'll enjoy a free life, Bezrat Hashem, in Artzenu HaKodesh, B'mehera v'yamenu, Amen ve'amen.